Hi guys, we are starting chapter 10, lesson 2, simplifying radicals. In order for the radical to be simplified, we need to know several things, okay? And for this lesson, you don't need a calculator, okay? We don't need a calculator, but we do need to know what the perfect square means. Okay, perfect square needs to be a number multiply itself. Okay, number multiply itself, 4 square, 3 square, and so on. Okay, that's our whole goal, is to find a perfect square. Okay, if you cannot find, let's say if you're given a number that does not have a perfect square, but within that number there should be a little bit of perfect square. If you cannot find any perfect square, then the radical, the number is actually simplified enough. Okay, let's take an example. Let's look at number 1. Let's say I'm going to ask you 72. Okay, square root of 72. You know 72 is not a perfect square. Okay, how do we find it? You're finding it by using a factor tree. Okay, I'm going to look at two numbers. Okay, you are going to look at what two numbers multiply to get 72. Okay, I'm looking at 36 and 2. Okay, you don't have to go all the way down to a prime numbers. Okay, remember prime number is either that number and 1. Okay, so 72 I can have, let's say you're gonna figure out it's 36 and 2. Let's say you're gonna have 72. You're gonna look at 8 and 9. It's still okay. Since 9 is a perfect square, I just leave it there. 8 is not a perfect square. I can look at 4 and 2. Okay, remember, I'm not looking for a prime. I'm looking for a number that multiplies itself. Okay, and there is a property that tells you, okay, there's a property that tells you as if you have a number A and B, okay, you can also split it up as A times a B. Okay, what you do is you just split it in half. Okay, that is a property we call that multiplications property of square root. In this case, square root of 72 is the same thing as square root of 36 times 2. Okay, you are going to split it out as square root of 36 times a square root of 2. Okay, 36 is a perfect square. It is, square root of that is 6. 2 is not a perfect square, so I'm going to leave it inside. Okay, so this should be the simplification of it. Okay, or you can have the one over here. Let's say I have this over here. I have 72. I have a 9. I have a 4. And then I have a 2. I'm going to split it up. Okay, that should give me a square root of 9, square root of 4, and then square root of 2. Square root of 9 is 3. Multiplying square root of 4 is 2. Multiplying a radical 2. Okay, and then I can simplify this together. That's going to give me a 6 times radical 2. Okay, should give you exactly the same answer. Okay, let's take the problem number 2. Okay, let's say they ask you to simplify this with unknown variables. Okay, there's a rule. Okay, there's a rule that tells you you have an odd, when you look at variables, okay, every time you have an odd exponent as far as variable concerned, okay, if it's an odd, then not a perfect square. Okay, what you're gonna do is, let's say I have, in this case, that's not a perfect square. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm taking one of it out, and then that's 8, okay? Remember your rules of exponents. If you multiply the number with the same base, you add the exponents. In this case, I did not change anything. I just split the 8 out. I'm just bring one of them out. Okay, so that is 8. Oh, let me erase a little bit right here. And then I'm going to have to take that again. So I'm going to make into m to the first. Okay, every time you have an even exponent, that is a perfect square. Okay, when you're talking about radical, you're talking about a square root. Square root is technically, there's a 2 right here. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take 8 divided by 2. That should give you a 4. Okay. Okay, let's go back to the problems over here. 80, I'm going to look at okay, 80, I have 16 and I have 5. Okay, so let's put it back in. I had to rewrite the m. What I have inside is 16 is a perfect square. That is my perfect square. And the 8 is also my perfect square. Okay, I am going to pair together. Okay, if I'm trying to pair it together with a perfect square, the 5 over here is not a perfect square. The m to the first right here is not a perfect square. So I'm going to pair together. Oops, that's the 5. Okay, I'm going to have here, I'm going to have 5. I'm going to pair m to the first. Okay, once I'm done with that, I'm going to split this in half. Okay, then I should have negative m. I'm going to split it up as 16 m to the 8, 5m. Then I should have negative m. 16, the perfect square of that is 4. M to the 8th, I should have m to the 4th. And the 5 is not a perfect square. The 5m is not a perfect square, so I leave it inside. Okay, let me combine these two together. Negative 1 and 4 is negative 4. M to the first times m to the 4, your rule of exponents is when you have the same base, you add the exponents. So I have 1 plus 4, that would give me a 5. And then I just bring everything back down. Okay, that should give you. Okay, let's take these examples. I have these two factor. I am going to multiply it together. Okay, now I'm looking at the square root of 2a is not a perfect square. I cannot do anything about it. Okay, and then square root of 9 and 3a to the third. There's something in there that I can factor. But before I do that, let me multiply together. Okay, let me multiply these two together first. Okay, I can multiply the 2 and the 9, give me 18. Okay, and then I have the 8 to the first and 8 to the third. Make it 8 to the 4. Remember earlier we said that when we have the a and the b, you can split it up as A times the B, okay? You can do it that way. Now we can also do it backward when it's multiplied. So you can take this, you multiply it back, okay? Same thing. So I should have the 18 is not a perfect square, but inside the 18, I have the 9 and the 2. Okay, and then a to the 4th power, since it's an even exponent, remember we just talked about exponents at this point. It is perfect square. So what I can do is I'm going to take it back out. So thus I'm pairing the 9 is a perfect square. A to the 4 is not a perfect square. And the 2 is not a perfect square. So I just leave it by itself. Okay, the next step I want to do is I want to split it out. Okay, I want to split it out, and that will give me square root of 9, a to the 4 times square root of 2. Okay, square root of 9 should give me a 3, and then a to the 4 should give me 8 squared, and then times 2. Okay, let's take another example. Let's say I have this one right here. Let's say I have this expression. I want to multiply together. I can multiply the numbers outside together, and then I can multiply the number inside together. Remember, you can always simplify first before you multiply, but because I saw that when I multiply together, it has a perfect square. So I'm going to take the 7 times the 3. This all multiplications, and then I'm going to take the 5 times the 20, that's give me 100. X to the 1st times x to the 5th, that should give me x to the 6th. Okay, that should give me 21. Okay, multiply square root of 100 is 10. Square root of x to the 6th should give me x to the 3rd. Okay, and then that should give me 210 x to the 3rd.